Welcome back to Outdoor Adventure Training. My name is Mikey Bell, and today we're diving into a very important topic of discussion that every skier should be well versed in, which is valgus movement of the knee. If you've never heard of the word valgus in your life, don't worry, you're definitely not alone. But by the end of this video, you will know what it means, why it's relevant to skiers, and what you can do to prevent it. As winter is rapidly approaching, this is something we're talking a lot about at OAT with clients in our powder prep program, and we've had the pleasure and honor of working with Dr. Jeb Reed, who's the former US ski team orthopedic surgeon and has operated on elite athletes like Lindsey Vonn and knows a thing or two about knee injuries. And we definitely plan to interweave his experience and expertise into this video. Side note, we do have plans to do a sit-down interview with Dr. Jeb Reed and ask him all of your questions about how to train effectively for skiing. So don't forget to subscribe to the Outdoor Adventure Training YouTube channel to stay up to date with our latest content. In the simplest terms possible, valgus movement of the knee just means your knees are moving inward, medially, towards the midline of your body. This can also be called knock-kneed. Some people can present valgus knees just standing statically, but more often than not, it comes up during dynamic movement. This can happen while moving uphill, or even more commonly, moving downhill as we're absorbing those forces, and definitely when landing after jumping. But what's wrong with valgus movement? Unfortunately, approximately 120,000 skiers worldwide annually rupture their ACL. The ACL is your anterior cruciate ligament that helps prevent the knee from collapsing inward and rotating medially. And ultimately, what can cause an ACL rupture is excessive valgus movement of the knee. So if you are at all interested in having a long ski season and long ski career and want to stay out of the operating room, it might be important for you to understand how to reduce the likelihood of having that valgus collapse of the knee. We're going to start off with an assessment. And this is something you can do very easily at home. You can have a friend film you or prop up your phone. Do this in front of a mirror. But really, we want to assess whether or not you have a tendency to go valgus. Our preferred way to do this is in an overhead squat assessment. So facing a camera or a mirror, put your hands up overhead and slowly sink into a squat. Pay attention to how your knees are tracking in relation to your big toe. If they tend to collapse inward over that line of your big toe, that's indicative that you have muscle imbalances that are gonna lead to a propensity to go valgus, particularly under dynamic force, which you will most certainly face while you're skiing. Now, if your overhead squat looked pretty good and your knees aren't going valgus, we're gonna progress to a single leg hop assessment. You're gonna get on one leg in just a very small hop, and I want you to try to land softly. This will really bring about any tendency to go valgus because we're decelerating. And this is when most ACL injuries happen, from going into that excessive valgus position is while we're decelerating. If you failed miserably at one or both of these assessments, no worries at all. We're gonna give you some tangible tools that you can apply to help correct some of these muscle imbalances and reduce that valgus movement. If you passed both of these assessments with flying colors, we would still encourage you to implement these tools to further reduce the likelihood of sustaining an ACL injury. Now, we've already alluded to what's causing this valgus movement of the knee, which is muscle imbalances. But what muscles are really at play? And it might not be what you think it is. One of the most important muscle groups that can prevent your knee from going valgus is your gluteal muscles, and specifically gluteus medius. And you might think, but wait, we're talking about your knees. Why are you talking about your hip? Really, all your knee does is flexion and extension and a tiny bit of medial rotation. But strengthening those external rotators of your hips, like your gluteus medius, will help keep that knee in a more externally rotated position to prevent that valgus movement. There's plenty of research out there to support these statements that your glutes are primarily responsible for knee alignment in just about every activity you could think of. Now, if you've been following this channel for any amount of time, you would know that I am big on glute activation, and it's for a good reason. And this is a huge part of that rationale in all of our training programs, all of our YouTube videos. I love to say that every single lower body exercise truly is a glute exercise. At the end of every repetition, whether it's a lunge, a squat, a deadlift, or a step up, you should always reach full hip extension at the end of your repetition, which is gonna fully activate those glutes. Most people struggle with glute activation, and this is because they've never built that neuromuscular efficiency and that brain-body connection to really fire those glutes. So starting off with really simple floor exercises like a glute bridge and variations of that, or a lower Superman where we're concentrically engaging those glutes and building that connection. Additionally, there are very specific exercises we can utilize to target the gluteus medius. Some of my favorites include a lateral band walk where you have the band wrapped around your knees and you're slowly stepping out to the side. You will feel this fire your gluteus medius as that band tries to pull your knees valgus, and you're resisting it with deep hip external rotation to really get the most out of that exercise. But really what it all boils down to, regardless of the exercise, is the alignment of your knee. If in both of those assessments we did earlier on, your knees collapsed inward, you may want to consider excessively externally rotating your knee to start tipping the scales in your favor to really isolate and target gluteus medius and the rest of the gluteal complex. So as you're doing a lunge or a step up, really pay attention to what your knee is doing at every phase of the exercise, the way up and the way down. Do not let that knee cross over your big toe. The whole reason why we train in this fashion is so when you're skiing and enjoying yourself, you don't have to think about, oh no, my knees are gonna collapse in. It will just happen automatically because you've put in the hours to train your mind and your body to stay slightly externally rotated with your glutes engaged. The next major muscle that we want to target to prevent that valgus movement of the knee is our VMO, or the vastus medialis oblique. This is our medial quad muscle, also known as the teardrop muscle, because in well-defined athletes, it can look like a teardrop. And this muscle plays a critical role in stabilizing the knee and reducing that valgus movement. There are a ton of exercises that will target and help activate that VMO. Lunges and split squats are some of my favorite. And again, we're still working on that slight external rotation. So we're also gonna be targeting the glutes, but we're really emphasizing that VMO activation. Exercises like terminal knee extensions, where you have a band pulling your knee into flexion and you're using resistance of that band to get full VMO activation as you extend the knee. And another exercise like the reverse step up, where you're actively and eccentrically loading that VMO, working on mobility and range of motion as well, and then activating it concentrically on the way up. These are all amazing ways to start building strength and stability through the medial quad muscle. The hamstrings also play a very important role in balancing the forces of the quad to help stabilize the knee. Research has demonstrated that having balanced activation between the quads and hamstrings can potentially reduce the risk of ACL injury. In fact, Dr. Reed suggested to have 60-40 ratio from quads to hamstrings. So we don't want to overdo it with quad activation. We need to have balance there. And of course, if you've ever found yourself hooting and hollering halfway down a powder run, what's burning? It's not your hamstrings, it's your quads. So we certainly need to strengthen the quads, but the hamstrings are the antagonist muscle that's gonna help create balance through the entire thigh and help stabilize the knee. Stability ball hamstring curls are an amazing way to start building strength through the hamstring. Simply laying on your back, putting your feet on top of the stability ball and pushing down through your heels as you draw that ball in is really gonna light up the back of the legs. And of course, the single leg Romanian deadlift is one of my favorite all-time exercises. And not only will it help you build strength and stability through the hamstrings, but also improve your balance and mobility. We have a full 20-minute long tutorial video on how to perform this very important and nuanced exercise if you need additional guidance. No conversation about biomechanics would be complete without at least touching on the importance of core stability. There is research out there to suggest that having a strong and stable core can also reduce the likelihood of an ACL injury or re-injury after an ACL reconstruction surgery. As you could probably guess intuitively, having a strong and stable core is an amazing way to improve your overall balance and proprioception, which is so important to keep you on your feet while you're skiing and further reduce the likelihood of injury. As far as having a strong and stable core, don't overcomplicate it. Planks are an effective and great place to start. Any sort of static hold where you're really isolating and isometrically squeezing the abdominals and obliques is amazing, but also don't shy away from dynamic movement. This could be Russian twists where we're working on that rotational movement, or even just V-sit bicycles, V-sit knee-ins. There are so many amazing core exercises out there, and we have dozens and dozens of variations of so many different exercises in all of our training programs. Mobility, of course, does play another very important role in reducing the likelihood of ACL injury and any injury for that matter. A few tips here. Focus on mobilizing the adductors, the muscles along the inner thigh. A simple wide-legged forward fold and foam rolling your adductors can help mobilize these tissues, as well as working on your hip flexors and mobilizing your quads. I know we talked about activating the VMO, but you have 3 other quad muscles, and there's a good chance that if you're skiing a lot, those muscles get tight. The more foam rolling, the more stretching you can do, the better to stay limber and supple in case you do take a tumble. Now, this is a very simple discussion unpackaging this complex problem of valgus movement of the knee. If you have any questions about this, feel free to hit us up. Book a consultation on our website. We have tons of resources on there to help you ski better. Really, that's our mission, is to keep you on the slopes and have a great time. Nobody wants to go down with ski patrol. Nobody wants to spend their après-ski session in a knee brace. And by focusing on some of the things that we talked today, like strengthening your glutes and hamstrings and that vastus medialis oblique, stabilizing your core and improving your overall mobility, you're going to significantly reduce the likelihood of sustaining an ACL injury from valgus movement of the knee. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time here at Outdoor Adventure Training.